How is everyone feeling today? How are you guys doing?
You don't want to hear my story.
I want to hear everyone's story.
Skip, you start.
She would like it. Yeah, she's into the fucked up shit. So.
Oh yeah, okay. So, yeah, like about an hour and a half before this moment, I finally managed to make a kidney stone fly out the end of my dick because kidney stones are incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And I've spent the last 48 hours enjoying them immensely. They're like just having a little man inside my urethra with sandpaper and an actual rock that I could feel. It was fun. So I'm much happier now.
Aaron took a big drink of something red right when you said that. It was insane. It's like, and I got it right here.
Right.
Oh, you know what's fucked up though, dude?
Yes.
I saw like a super microscopic close up of a kidney stone on like fucking Twitter or something the other day.
Okay.
And it's just razors. It's just all it's just all
No,
razors, dude.
No,
like,
it's excruciatingly painful. It was like somebody made a ball out of razor blades and then jammed it into my dick. It was really cool.
It was really cool.
But I've never had razors in my dick.
I'm sure you'll have fun with them later.
Yeah.
Can't wait. As soon as this is over, it's on.
He's going to be Googling, how do I get kidney stones ASAP?
What do I need to eat more of?
I'm just going to shove razors up my dick.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just going to skip. He's going to get a rock and duct tape like razor blades to it and just go straight to town. He's like, actually, I'm going to skip all the steps.
Twist it in there.
I'm a DIY enthusiast.
Oh my
this should just be the video. Just this.
It's the fifth I've ever done already.
Yeah. Books? Yeah.
Nah. Kidney stones? Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, does your thumb bend backwards? Yes, it does. Very few people have thumbs that actually bend backwards. That's very exciting.
I'd say
okay, guys. I know we're not on topic at all, but do you guys want to see something weird?
Yeah.
Of course you guys do. Hold on. I can bend my thumbs behind my knuckles like this.
Ooh.
Hold on. Wait. And I can like hold stuff.
Oh shit!
Ooh.
That's sick. Yo.
Wait, I want to.
How have you not done like a TikTok video about that yet?
Dude, I don't know. Like imagine someone is giving you like 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 2 thumbs up and then they broke and fell backwards.
Yeah.
I ate Thanksgiving dinner like this one time and my mom got so pissed at me. She was like, that's disgusting. I don't want to eat anymore. I was like, this looks cool.
But also disgusting for people who don't like that sort of thing. I got to tell you, when I was on the set of Clive Barker's Nightbreed in England many years ago, David Cronenberg was one of the actors in it, and he would like to hang out. He was in his hotel writing Naked Lunch when they were shooting it, so he was only on set when they needed him. But when he's standing around, he liked to talk with the people in the crew and ask them what weird things their bodies could do. So that was like his favorite thing, was just to find out what weird things people's body would do. And so everybody's showing him their tricks. You know, people could make their ears flop down, and all I had was thumbs. And your thumbs were still pretty fun.
Fired a kidney stone out of your penis?
Yeah, they started firing kidney stones at him. He was like,
they just start shooting out like cannons.
Exactly.
Your gun just...
I've always been jealous of the people that can flip their eyelids.
I don't fucking like that shit. I don't like it at all. I don't like seeing the how pink inside of our face is.
Yeah.
Not into it. I don't like that.
I think it's super cool, but it also alarms me.
No, it's not. It's horrible.
I think it looks so cool. I cannot tell you how many times I've scratched my eyeball trying to force my eyelids to flip up.
Well,
because I'm like, that looks so cool. I want to do it. I can't. I have to give it up.
I don't have that trick either.
I'm way too Asian for that anyway. I'm gonna it.
Yeah, you tear something.
Yeah, I'm gonna tear the hoods.
Okay, so
yeah,
I finish The Ugly Truth this morning. I really took my time on it because like Aaron knows that I'm usually able to read like on average 100 pages an hour. Like I speed through books and I love it, but I took my time with this one and I wrote about like 3 pages of notes.
Wow.
Just kind of like dissecting everything. But we can just start off with some questions. Where did you guys, when you guys came together, I read the Substack about how you're an author turned back into an author again. And I thought that was so funny. But what made you guys come together and realize that you wanted to write together and write something like this? I know that you were talking about how you wanted to write a book about lying because that's something that was very interesting to you. But how did you guys cultivate this book? Because it had everything. I feel like it had some of the most like gruesome things that I've read in a minute. And it was also, there's so many quotes in this book that I found just stuck out so heavily. How did you guys do this? Like this was great. Tell me about the process.
Well, Aaron started it.
Yeah, blame
Aaron
me.
started it.
Yeah, well, I guess to kind of kick it off, but everybody can talk a little bit. But I'll start it. Is that we knew Skipp was planning something in the background a little bit, and Shane had made me aware that he was starting to kind of flesh out the script and try to get ready for shooting This Is Splatterpunk, which is kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Skipp, it's like it's going to be like, you know, part documentary but also cinematic as well, right?
Well, it's basically a movie that attempting to answer the question of what is splatterpunk, since it has become a matter of debate again, and since I was one of the original guys that was doing that shit, I was like, I'll tell you what I saw. You know, it's not like I'm gatekeeping because I don't even have a fucking gate, but I can tell you what my experience was and how I see it. So basically, in the movie, we talk about it some. Shane is interviewing me at a fake horror convention in which a bloodbath erupts. And then what we do is we demonstrate the difference between traditional horror that Splatterpunk was responding to, and then the two things that fired off from it, which I think are extreme horror on the one hand and bizarro horror on the other, and then what Splatterpunk is and differentiates them. So it's 4 short films with some weird educational content in between. And I didn't want to do I want to do a show, not tell, you know, like as opposed to me spending an hour and a half telling Shane about books that you've never heard of, or, you know, that we would just show it. And so Shane and I came up with these insane stories, and Shane's going to be on set the entire time and watch how I make a movie so that maybe Shane can go make the next movie that he wants to. And Aaron's going to do that too.
Yeah.
So going back to what Skipp, you said he's an author who became an author again. Yes. I'm in the same boat with him because I wrote books a while ago, took 8 years off to screenwrite, and in that time, Skipp and I had written some movies together, and we've been wanting to collaborate again. We were working on a book together. And then he was telling me about this film and kind of just floated like, oh, would you want to write some of the short films with me? And he did all the heavy lifting, but we spent hours doing this and just going through, laughing our asses off, coming up with the craziest shit. Wait till y'all see this shit. It's wild.
Yeah.
Right after I'm interviewing him, this is my acting debut, by the way. cut my stomach and pull my intestines out and start chewing on them. I can't wait for this. But then when we were getting it, writing the script, we started thinking about like where do we kind of go from here as far as getting it made. And the idea when I kind of brought him in and told him what we were doing, to what if we wrote a book together and put it out there as a writing team to kind of draw attention toward this bigger project. And that was kind of the inception of it all. And Aaron and I had done Benjamin together.
Yes.
And it was just like these are my two favorite collaborators. What if we just all came together?
Benjamin was absolutely amazing. I remember when it came out, I took, oh my gosh, I want to say like 4 or 5 pages of notes while I was reading it. And I also had like a diagram of like all the characters and how they connected and where the bill was traveling and everything. And you guys did such an amazing job with the videos with that. It was
incredible.
It was mind-blowing. Like I recommend that book so much, especially because I feel like people who are, I recommend it to newbies actually, because I feel like a lot of people, when they get into the genre of either extreme horror, splatterpunk, especially when it comes to like finding recommendations on TikTok, it's usually just like the over the top gross out stuff, and they're like, oh, this has no depth, this has nothing, until they find something like Benjamin or anything else. Like there's so many books that have depth that still explore the gross out. Like you can have a balance, but a lot of people will get turned off by the genre just because they're only reading the over-the-top gross-out books.
Yeah, the easy part. Yeah, that's the easy part.
It gets redundant, and it loses its charm if you don't care about who it's happening to. So, we all are the same page on that. We find it very important to build characters, to make people care. And like Shane and I had this conversation before. It was kind of like, early in our careers, both of us, we kind of paralleled in a way of just writing off instinct. Like we weren't traditionally trained in writing or anything like that, but it was just instinctual to us to make the character important. And I never like consciously thought that in advance. I only saw it in reviews after the fact of the Slob, when people were talking about how it was impactful for them because of how they felt about the character. And that I actually learned it through reviewers. And that just goes to show how important, people like you are, Eve. And we remember when you made that Benjamin video, because Shane, we were in the Poconos on a writer's retreat, and we saw your video.
On a writer's retreat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Writing the screenplay adaptation to Benjamin, which we still need to finish, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you probably do.
Yeah. Please. I beg.
Oh yeah, and we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Jorge, right, Shane? Because Jorge's the man behind the videos.
Jorge Jaramillo is the animator who made those films, and dude, that we gave him like the themes of each like part, and like we give him like key words, and then he would just go fucking ape shit. Like that was all him. It was so all him that we went back and like put some of that imagery like in the writing because it was so good. It was like, dude, we need to like, this makes our shit way better, and added like these layers and this depth to it that fit so perfectly that it was a really crazy moment. He is a big part of that.
And Shane, he was the, like, we did not come up, the idea we had at first, when we look back on it, it's a bit shameful just because it's a regurgitation of what was happening in the book. Like our idea was like, oh, we can put like cool little scenes that are happening in the book. And that would have really been redundant. And Jorge was the one who came up with the idea of, well, why don't we just use elements and make it like more metaphorical and open to interpretation, and we're not really like spoiling anything one, and we're also not like being redundant, just like showing you something you just saw on the page anyway, you know. So like, I feel like it made it more interactive for the reader, you know, which was a great thing in my opinion. But
totally, and I love the fact that then the layer of stuff that he threw down made you go, shit, we got to put some of this in there. That it re-inspired you. That it, you know, it's like that you actually. Well, I mean, the art of collaboration is bouncing off of each other, and you know, it's like I bring what I bring, you bring what you bring, you bring what you bring. But when you bounce, then there are sparks that fly that would not have come up under any other circumstances. You know, you're bringing out the fourth voice in this particular case.
Yeah,
and that shit is really cool.
And the animation was so dark and off-putting and creepy. I loved it so much, and it still left. I feel like with the animation, along with the story, there was still like a good amount left up for the reader's imagination, which I always value when it comes to any form of media, because I feel like not all loose ends need to be tied. I feel like leaving things up for interpretation and up for imagination to kind of fill in the blanks really, I don't know, it makes me feel connected to the writer and the creator, because I feel like I'm creating something with them in my mind.
Yes.
100%. The reader is your co-writer always, and collaborations are
co-dreamer.
They don't know work, you know. And so going back to like Ugly Truth, when we started working, and Benjamin is different because Aaron and I kind of wrote it as a single voice, and then in Ugly Truth we made the decision to each have our own story, but to interconnect them. And once we decided on that, and we went back and forth kind of how it was going to be, but that was definitely the way to go. And then to have each other's characters kind of show up each other's stories, you know, it just built like this really, its own world, and it was so much fun to do. And I was absolutely, I'll just say now, I was the last one to finish. And so I was able to read their stuff and draw a lot of inspiration from them to put into my book, and it kind of told me who my character should be by reading how their characters reacted to someone I haven't written yet, you know? And it really, like, I kind of took their lead on this thing, man. And without them, it wouldn't be anywhere what it is.
What's fascinating,
my character.
What's fascinating is that we, as we started to piece it together and go, okay, we're each going to do a separate character. I knew almost immediately that I wanted to do a story about a woman who thinks that everybody's lying to them and she's right. And then as we were talking about it, and just basically going to the punchline that it goes to, we're just right. And then we determined that there should be like this like new age kind of radical honesty guru in the middle of it. And it was only after we'd been talking about it for a while that Shane was like, shit, I'm writing that guy. You know, it was really, really cool. And then just to have my character come in at the end of his story was really, really fun.
I feel like we knew the ending like immediately. Like, so the ending is your character is definitely exploding my character's head.
Yeah.
And then the end, right?
Spoiler alert.
It was, yeah.
Yes.
Christ.
I forgot this isn't just for us four. So what do you mean? She said she read it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but you know what's kind of cool too is like I just thought like, you know, the idea of the self-help guru like is cool because it like he's, you know, Shane, you're writing a villain, of course, but in a weird way, like that's what I liked about his impact on my character is like even villains can have like a good impact on people sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, to me that's an interesting like thread, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's all about the perception of the character. Like to some characters he's a villain, but to other characters he's the hero. And I thought that was so fascinating because you start off the book and you're like, oh, you know, this guru is really helping out this guy, you know, he's really doing good. And then by the end of the book, you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And on topic of the characters, I know, Shane, that you said that you wrote your character after they wrote theirs. So Aron and Skipp, how did you guys find inspiration for the characters that you were writing about? Especially Aron, I want to talk to you because what was that scene with the baby? What was that? What was that? Can we talk about that for a minute? Because I feel like I've read Playground, I've read most of your work, but that caught me so off guard. I know you always write extreme stuff, but I did not see that coming at all. I did not see that coming, and it was brutal. That was probably one of the most brutal things that I feel like I've read from you in a while, because I feel like with Playground, I knew what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know, kids are going to die. That's what I'm signing up for. But with this, I was not expecting that. And I was literally reading it and I went, oh, no.
I think like well, first of all, I'm glad that you felt that way. That means hopefully I'm doing my job.
It worked.
But you know, like I think like when lies affect young people, you know, I think that's kind of what that part of the story is about, you know, and like how that you know, maternal or paternal instinct, you know, it's just, what would you do for your kid, you know? And or if something like that happened, like, and I'm kind of speaking vaguely here, hoping not to spoil too much, but yes, you know, something a lie, and lies kind of affect them in a weird way, children, you know, and I think parents can, you know, react to that pretty visceral sometimes, and I guess that's what that was about. But yeah,
it was rough.
With Aron, when you say that scene with the baby, you then have to specify more.
So, yeah.
No. Do not.
But where did you draw your inspiration from when it came to writing this character? Because I've noticed that, Aron, in your writings, that you kind of lean more towards, like, at least in quite a few, there's always a character that's struggling with drug abuse. And so I'm just wondering, where did you draw inspiration when it came to writing this character? And also, Skipp, where did you draw inspiration from writing your character? Because she was powerful. I loved reading about her. I was like, hell yeah, you go. Especially with the boyfriend situation. I was like, yes. But where did you guys come up with where was the inspiration? How did you guys put yourselves in their shoes?
Well, I'll just answer mine quickly. I guess, like, you know, I grew up around a lot of pretty fucked up stuff. You know, if I'm just being honest, you know, like I've seen a lot in my time, and you know, addiction touches everybody in one way or another, I think. So that might be why it's a reoccurring theme in my work. But with my character, you know, I think, like, I don't know if I've written like a redemption story quite like this one, you know. I just wanted I don't know, I just wanted to see him make the turn, I guess, if that makes sense. But Skipp, if you want to talk about your character a little too.
Oh, God. I can talk about Martha all day.
She's great.
I just love her so much. And basically, you know, where do characters come from? You know, we're starting out, okay, so this is a story about lying and the impact of lying. This is something that has been bothering me forever. If I have one enemy on this earth, it's bullshit. You know, I just want people to fucking be straight up. And if we were all honest about who and what we are, we would be a lot farther ahead of the game. That the subterfuge is so much of what holds us back and fucks us up. So so yeah, okay. So here's a young woman who is convinced everybody's lying to her, and she's right. I mean, her boyfriend's lying, her bosses are lying. She looks at her phone, she looks at the TV, they're lying. You know, everything is designed. You know, she works in a mall. I have a housemate who works at Nordstrom at the makeup counter, and so I just kind of drew from her experience. She has amazing stories, and then started to piece her together. Thought about putting it at Christmas and having the Santa Claus, and just, you know, things start to fall together. But as I was saying in the Substack piece, what I really like is when I'm not telling the character what to do; the character is telling me. Like at a certain point, you breathe enough life into them that they know how they feel, and then you just try to fucking keep up. And yeah, once Martha started to come together, it was like everything became clear, and I because I knew where it was going to end. That was like one of the first things we discussed once we started to get rolling. Is like shit's going to blow up. That basically, it's really hard to hit the bullseye if you don't know where the target is. But if you know where you're going, then it's like, and you just take the ride. And then I also have a thing about gurus and cults and the ways that truth can be twisted to lure lost people in, and then the next thing you know, you're their sex slave. You know, it happens so often. It happens so pathetically consistently that that really sticks in my craw. So it's really easy to put myself in that place.
Yeah, I feel like it happened so quickly in the book as well, because like we were touching on earlier, I feel like with the first two stories, we're like, okay, you know, he's exposing lies, he's helping people see lies or helping people make good and doing all of this stuff. And then we get to his story and we're like, oh, which his story is so fascinating. I think I have so many notes. I apologize, guys.
Why would you?
I love the notes.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
How dare you think?
But yeah, where did you get, okay, because with the first two stories that we had, how did you get the direction for where the guru was going to go? Because I did not see that coming. Like, I knew he was going to be messed up, but I did not think he was going to be like that. So how did you get there? How did we get here?
A lot of what we talked about was, if we're all going to write about lying, what's our angle on lying? Because we can't all do the same thing. Can't about look at all the liars in the world. And so I like the idea that this guy, going back to, he's actually helping these people, and he's so caught up in his own bullshit that he believes it as well. So he's almost not lying. He thinks it's real. And so he's, you know, in essence, kind of lying to himself, and the danger of, you know, drinking your own Kool-Aid a little bit, you know, and then again, like what Aaron said, is I'm writing a villain. I don't think it's all that interesting to read a villain who thinks they're a villain and is just doing all this evil shit because evil's fun.
Yeah.
And so instead, it's like, this really believes this shit. And, you know, if I'm going to write this guy, he needs to think, I'm so important. These people need me. And what I'm saying is going to help them, even though it's fucking them up. And so it's a really delicate balance, right? That, so the idea that, like, going back to lying, his whole thing is, I'm trying to help you find your truth. Whatever your truth is, you have to live that truth, even if it hurts others, because what matters the most is being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
How he is living this lie that he's come to believe himself, you know? And so it got really tricky. And so I started playing with little things like, what if he was deaf? And how would that affect how he hears lies if he can't hear? I mean, it's all about seeing the honesty in someone's like body language or being able to read them. And then that's how this idea that he can read minds and that he can actually hear the truth while they're lying to his face. And it just layers kept building and building. And, I really just wanted to make sure that, especially after two amazing stories from Aron and Skipp that referenced this guy, he needed to live up to that shit,
And he did. He definitely did. I thought the aspect of him being deaf was so interesting.
So interesting.
I loved that. It was amazing.
Yeah, and one thing that was kind of interesting too that Shane caught in my story a couple times, because we kind of read each other's stories, of course. But yeah, I remember like Shane, you caught even though like my character's trying to do something nice at the end of his story for someone, he tells a lie to do it. And Shane kind of pointed that out for me, and he was like, dude, he shouldn't be lying anymore though, And so that was a thing, like for my character in the present time, I kind of had to be conscious of that. Like even if it had good intentions to like where it's going to go, that's kind of not, that's what he sort of thought before he made those other decisions to deceive people, and it could have just kind of turned into a cycle. And I guess one other thing I'll say too is like I tried to do a couple things in the book where like, for example, when he approaches the cab driver's daughter, like I wanted to do something that was like a little bit different there, And again, I guess I don't want to give too much away, so it's kind of hard to skirt around it, but you know what I mean, I guess, not typically where you'd think that would go,
I wasn't expecting the first character, the mom situation, Kevin's mom.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
That was so rough. I was not expecting that. I was like, that is messed up. And then it continues to just get more messed up from there. I was like, okay. It was absolutely crazy. But some of this is so off topic, but while I was reading Aron's story, his character smokes a lot of cigarettes. And every single time the character would smoke a cigarette, I'd be like, oh, I want a cigarette.
That was what was happening when I'm writing it. I was writing it in a cabin with Dan, and I had cigarettes at that time because like if I do a writer's retreat, I'll get cigarettes. And I'm just fucking burning them one after another,
I
and I'm like, oh,
have
a cigarette?
I have it like outlined in red in a box. I said, he smokes a lot of cigarettes. I smoked a cigarette every time he smoked a cigarette.
Well, but what's, I want it again, and I think like this is something I like to try to do in my writing is like, I wanted to give it a meaning why he smokes the cigarettes. You know what I mean? And in the story, his father smokes these dark menthol cigarettes, and that's what kind of brings him back to the memory of like being a kid is like they're freezing in this apartment where there's no heat. His dad's like, this will warm you up, kind of thing, like take a puff, you know what I mean? Just like what a fucking scumbag life, I love it.
And
I love it. I can say from long experience that a cigarette has never made me warm.
Right. It's just addict thinking, just like,
How did you guys come up with some of the quotes? Because I feel like each one of your guys' stories has these just like amazing quotes from the guru. Like, sometimes the path to atonement can only be carved out by sacrifice. I read that and I was like, ooh, that's amazing. How did you guys come up with this? Sorry, I'm reading my notes and I'm just like, because they pitched, I know that he's a villain, which also, let's go back to that. I know that he's a villain, but if he's making positive impacts on other people's life, I think it's very interesting to explore like the gray area of like, yes, of course he's bad, but maybe for other people he's doing good. And I feel like this book does a really good job of exploring that.
I think that there are a lot of people who make great art or great contributions to society who are authentically fucked up, you know, and some of those people are like, okay, look at all the great stuff that I do, and this is how I justify my shitty behavior privately. There are other people who are like, I did a book many years ago called "The Art of Horrible People," and one of the things is just basically some people, that's the only good thing they have to offer. You know, they have this one genuine good thing to offer, and then they're free to go off and be a shitbag the rest of the time. And I mean, I living in New York, I knew dominatrixes who had clients who were like high-powered attorneys or high-powered government figures, and they would basically come in, crawl around in their own shit, go mommy, 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 and then feeling expunged could go out to ruthlessly rule the world some more. You know, so people are complicated. There's a lot of layers to it, and I just, it's not a leap for me at all to go, okay, yeah, he's a mess, but that's true. You know, this thing, he's got this one thing and it's true and he's working on it. He's working it. And that's why everybody's coming. They're not coming for the bullshit. They're coming for the truth. And then he's just got bullshit all over. You know? So that's how I'd explain it.
That's what I've really enjoyed about like your guys' writing is that it really explores the depth of a villain. Like I feel like in Benjamin, like everyone was doing something for a reason. There wasn't like, sure, there was like a set in stone bad guy kind of, but even then, I feel like you guys do such a good job of exploring the humanity of everyone, because I feel like I've read some books where it's just like, this is the bad guy, no humanity, gore, 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 which I don't mind from time to time. But these books actually make you sit back and think and ponder, and they're just a lot more realistic than a lot of the genre that I read. And I appreciate you guys for that. You guys keep me grounded.
Oh, that's a great compliment. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very deliberate about that. The hours and hours and hours that we talk and dig deep on these people and ask those questions.
It shows.
Like, why does he smoke cigarettes though? It can't just be that he does. But why does this person always say like this word all the time? And just answering all the why questions and really just never being, I mean, dude, we answered questions that never came up.
We didn't need it.
We didn't need it. Yeah. But now we know
but
this
we
person,
knew.
You know, and now we know why they would make every decision they make.
Yeah.
Because as Skipp said, your character just would do that. It's not that I wrote it, so that's why they did it. It's because that's just what they would do.
Yeah.
That's what they would say. You know? You can't know that until you do that deep work.
Yeah, and I feel like
I think we build the iceberg and then we show you the tip.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you create this whole thing and then you only need to show this much, but it's informed. And if you didn't know that shit, it's the difference between a fleshed out person and a cartoon. If you can't give people those dimensions, I love cartoons, but they're not fleshed out people.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like there's definitely a difference between I can just feel it in the writing when I read your guys' works, because I read, you guys know I read a lot, but I can definitely tell the difference between like, oh, this was definitely something that was written in a week or two, and I've talked to certain authors and they're like, yeah, I wrote this I knocked it out in a week or two or like a month or something. And then when I get to your guys' work, I'm like, okay, I can't read anything else. I know I'm going to lose myself in this book. These characters are really going to stick with me, and I just know that I can just feel that there's been so much more work and like hours poured into this because of the depth. Like even like you guys said, there were questions that you guys answered that weren't even used in the book, but you guys answered those questions. I can feel it. You know what I mean? There's so much depth to these characters that I have no problem picturing them and knowing what they would do. And you guys just do such a great job with that. I appreciate it wholeheartedly.
That's so cool.
Thank you, Eve. Yeah, and I think like, you know, Shane, I think what we estimated on Benjamin, we might have talked like for 100 hours, just talked about the book. Like that's how.
Talking about cigarette smoke, a lot of cigarette smoke too.
That book was crazy. Oh my
we
god.
We talked a lot on that one. But you know, it was all it was all for, you know, and thankfully it did get nominated for the Splatterpunk Award, so that's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
But I would like to do something like that again, dude.
That's how we all work. That's why I wanted to work with these two guys particularly, because when Skipp and I would work on something and we were writing scripts, we'd be up all fucking night long just going back and forth. And again, getting in deep on shit that never would show up, but that we need to know. You never know it. We fucking need to know. And we would go on and on and on and having the time of our lives. But it's like,
so much fun.
That's when collaborations are at their fucking best, man. When you're really feeding off each other and you don't want to stop because it's so good and you want to keep digging deeper and deeper. Sometimes when I write by myself, I don't necessarily feel like doing that. I do it because that's our job, but it's so nice to collaborate with people who share that, and then you feed off each other's energy, and I feel like that too shows.
Yeah, and I feel like different perspectives are always important because it's so easy to like, well, it's not easy necessarily, but when you're in your own head working on your own story, you can get lost in your own perspective. And so having someone else there being like, oh, why did the character do that, but then turn around and do that doesn't really make any sense. That's sure. Always...
And it's to the point now that I trust these guys so much. Even my solo shit, I'm like, y'all, I need you to read this and I need you to tell me everything that occurred to you while you read it, because I trust them. I trust their instincts.
Yeah, I think Shane, like there'll be stories, like there'll be stories that I write where I'm like, I'm fucking like honed in on this thing. Like I know this is what it needs to be. Like there's no doubt in my mind. And sometimes, you know, an editor may read it still, and I'll change a few things here and there, but a lot of times, you know, certain stories you just nail it sometimes. But then there's other stories where you, as you grow as an author, I think like you just know. Like there was a story I had Shane read for me. Homewreckers is what it's called. It's not out yet, but to me there was just something missing in that story. And Shane read it for me, and we had about, I don't know, maybe like an hour conversation or something after the fact.
Yeah.
And it just spiraled and snowballed into this thing where now I think it's like one of the best endings I've written, you know, like to a book.
Oh, dude, that ending,
like,
it was completely different. And then we had our talk, and it fucking just, and that happens with these dudes, man. Like Skipp too, like the films, like I'd show you daily footage, and just anything I had, I was like, Skipp, please look at this and tell me what you think. Because it too gets to a point where you get so caught up in it, you can't even tell if it's good or not anymore. You need somebody to come from the outside to look at it, but it has to be somebody I trust. And I also need to know that if it sucks, they'll tell me that shit too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, it's yeah, you did. That was really good.
Yeah.
Was really
good job, bud.
I gotta go. I gotta go do something. Bob.
Yeah. Speaking into the echo chamber, that's never good.
Yo, what do you say we reverse it up here for a second, Eve? Since you're with us, we want to hear a little bit about you too. How about that?
What do you want to know? Okay, odd question here, guys. Do you guys care if I smoke a cigarette?
No.
Come on.
No.
You make me want one.
Hey,
though.
live your truth. Live your truth.
I'm living my truth. I'm smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, but I think
I have a
like
question for Eve.
And Shane,
so
just to set it up
did you
real
read
quick,
our author bios, Eve?
Yeah, I was literally reading, Shane, I was reading yours out loud to my friend. I was like, what is going on? And he was like, is that real? I was like, yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. So we decided for our bios we would each tell a lie. So
really, that was a lie.
I want to hear your bio, and I want to hear you lie.
Okay. Eve grew up in a perfect family with everything that she ever wanted, and she was so happy, and everything cleaned up, and she was rich. She was rich.
What's the lie? Your name?
And everything was perfect. She never smoked cigarettes. She never drank alcohol. She never had any vices. She only reads the Bible. She loves God.
Oh.
She's actually a nun. Yes,
Wow.
yes. Oh,
Look, see, that is awesome.
yes. But what else do you want to know? I'm a very open book.
I wanted to set this up a little bit. So like the reason I wanted to ask this was because I think, you know, a fair amount of authors probably watch these sort of things too, and want to make sure, like, you know, people like you and what you do for writers, it's critical really to like our success and able to like ability to pay our bills, like really seriously, like shit like that. You guys are in a way the backbone in this new age of you know, sort of just the video reviews, like all these different things, you know, and the attentiveness that you guys put into, like, you know, novels and the passion that you have. So like, I'm just curious, did you is this kind of like what you set out to do, or did you just review a few books one day and sort of like it evolved into what you're doing now?
So, funny story, actually. I never really had intention of reviewing. I never thought anyone was going to really watch my shit when I started it. What had happened was, as Aaron, as you guys know, I'm going through a divorce. But what had happened was, with my previous partner, they did not want to hear a single thing about any of the books that I wanted to read or anything. And it got to the point where I was consuming so many of these books. I was like, I need to talk to someone. I need to talk about these books. I feel so passionate about them. I love the writing. I've always been an avid reader, but I kind of lost touch when I became probably like 20, when I got out of school. And so when I started reading for like pleasure again, I got into extreme horror, splatterpunk, all that stuff. And I became so passionate about it. I was reading multiple books a day, and I just wanted anyone to talk to. So I was like, you know what? Even if no one watches my videos, I just want to yap. I just want to talk about these books. I just want to put it out there. And so that's what got me started on reviewing, because I felt so passionate about this. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is what other people need to kind of ignite that love for reading that they previously had.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my day isn't complete if I'm not reading a book now. And so that's what started. I never thought that it was going to amount to this ever. I just wanted to talk about books that I love. And even now, I never really seek out monetary anything. And most of my reviews don't get monetized because of the stuff that I talk about. I just like to talk about it. It's just so fun to yap. And it's so much fun to talk about these books and get the reactions out of people. I think it's so funny.
Dude, it's funny though. You say something like that really sticks out to me, because what you say it as a content creator, but what you're doing as a content creator is what writers, I believe, do to make a great writer. And it's like you said, I'm doing it just because that's what I want to do. Like I don't even care who watches. You know what I mean? It's just because it's what you, it's your passion. It's what you need. I think that's a big component maybe of your success. You know.
Well, and it's just authentic. The fact that people tune in because you give a shit, and it's clear that you give a shit, and that your thoughts are clear and honest. Again, you're not bullshitting us.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I don't know if you guys have noticed when it comes to my reviews. I do not review books that I'm not passionate about. Like there are books that I've read that I don't, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to review those. First of all, because I'm not passionate about it. And second of all, I really don't, I know a lot of people listen to what I have to say, which is odd. They probably shouldn't do that. But I don't want to do a review and be like, yeah, I did not like this book. And that deters someone from potentially finding their favorite book, because just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that they're not going to like it. Like Cows by Matthew Stoke, everyone hated that book, I feel like, on TikTok. And if I were to listen to what everyone says about that book, I would have, that's one of my favorite books. I love that book so much. And so I don't ever want to deter someone from checking out a piece of literature that, I don't know, I just don't like doing that. I'll give like a little negative review, or not even negative. I'll just be like, hey, this was okay. It wasn't my cup of tea. I see the appeal of it. Not for me. I'll do that on Goodreads, but I will never do it on my bigger platforms.
It's funny because like doing that stuff, you know, like shitting on people's work and stuff, that tends to be the stuff that gets views. So the fact that you are still able to, you know, garner so many views while keeping it positive and passionate, like, you know, that's kind of a rare feat in the universe of negativity that we're in, I guess.
Yeah, really.
You know?
Yeah, because I don't, especially because I feel like a lot of the negative reviews that garner the attention that they do are usually from people who aren't experienced in the genre. So they pick up a book that they know nothing about, and then they get shocked and grossed out, and then they act shocked and grossed out without realizing that that's the intention of the book. Like that is the whole, like I got, I reviewed, not really reviewed, but I posted something on Instagram Reels about Amityville Bukkake. And it got a lot, it got a lot of attention, and a lot of people were like, just, I got a lot of death threats over that book, and a lot of stuff over that book. But a lot of people just don't realize that is the point. Like that book was a comedy horror. It was supposed to be outrageous and kind of stupid and make you giggle. They were talking about stretching urethras and like doing all this crazy stuff with demons. And
that's what I did.
Yeah.
That is what you today.
This interview is sponsored by Flomax.
Yeah, that shit is awesome. I gotta tell you.
But yeah, a lot of people, I feel like I see a lot of TikTok videos of people being like, I picked up this book, it's extreme horror and splatterpunk, and it was gross and disgusting and ew, why would anyone read this? And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, that's the point. That is the point.
Yeah.
Which brings it all back to Skipp's film, This is Splatterpunk. It's the point of that is to explain the difference, because in you know, like I took 8 years off of writing books to do screenwriting and came back, and I was surprised to see the questions still being raised, like the difference between extreme horror and splatterpunk. and it's still so many people think they're the same thing, and
they're not.
And they're not, and that's why Skipp is doing this, is to show that, not tell you, but show you the difference. Because you should know. The whole point of genre at all is to know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, it's all just fiction. But it's like, all right, I like this kind of thing, so this genre has certain promises. So I'm going to go over here for that, and you kind of, it's like you can navigate through what the kind of thing you want to read or experience. That's what genre is. And so, exactly what you said, to know what you're getting into. Like, first of all, if you pick up a book called Amityville Bukkake and you don't know what you're getting into, stop reading things.
Okay. I will. I'm going to be completely transparent here. When I picked up Amityville Bukkake, I saw that I knew what I was getting into to a certain extent because I saw Judith Sonnet's name, I saw Edward Lee's name. I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. You saw the word
Bukkake?
Okay, plot twist. I didn't know what a bukkake was.
Ah.
Okay, I saw the cover, and the cover has like white stuff on it. I was like, okay, is this like Amityville like Christmas horror? Because I thought the white stuff was snow.
Oh dear.
It's gooey snow. Yeah.
My favorite kind.
Because somebody's birthday?
Because I don't know. I thought bukkake, like, I would always say, oh, this is a load of bukkake. I just thought it was like a load of crap. I didn't know what a bukkake was.
Well,
now I'm educated.
There you go.
Now you're educated. See? And then
but I still knew what I was getting myself into to a certain extent because of the authors and like the genre that I read. With that being said, I feel like an interesting topic that I like talking about is the whole premise of like trigger warnings in the genre. Because I feel like, I don't know, I see a lot of different authors. Some authors will write like a whole page dissecting each trigger and put like, oh, insect horror, foul language, all that stuff.
Right.
How do you guys feel about navigating trigger warnings? Do you think that they're necessary in the genre? Because I feel like some people are like, yes, they're necessary. Other people are like, these are spoilers to a certain extent. And then my personal perspective is that, I don't know, if you see a certain author's name, you should just know that there's going to be messed up stuff.
At some point, right? Then there's new authors. You don't know what to expect from them. Right. But like for me, I try to hint at it without spoiling it, but also without having a big splash page of warnings all over. Mm-hmm. Just like, you kind of know what you're getting into for the most part. And honestly, the only time I hear it come up with my work personally is like, you book reviewers will say to the readers, trigger warning if you're not into like animal cruelty or baby stuff. And I kind of like, I have never personally run into any issues. And I know neither has Aaron.
Shut the fuck up. I got crucified for some of that stuff, but I don't give a fuck, you know? Here's my take on it. My take is that trigger warnings are fine, but they're not the fucking author's responsibility, okay? Because number one, we don't know what your trigger is, okay? This is not to be insensitive to people. I've seen people put, you know, divorce, for example, as a trigger. You know, and it could be for some people. It's possible. Oh. It could be, and I'm not knocking that by any means. But that's why I think it makes sense to let the readers create the trigger lists. Okay, because then we get the best of both worlds, right? The best world is that nothing is spoiled. If someone doesn't have any triggers, they're not going to go into that book and get anything ruined in advance or see a page that they don't want to. But for the people who are sensitive to certain things, you know, you probably shouldn't be picking up books if they don't have a trigger warning list, right? You could very easily go to a website and just see if it's been uploaded, and if that's there, you can make that decision to use it. And again, this is a slim, really slim amount of people that actually get super offended by this stuff. And it's typically not people getting offended because they're triggered by it. It's because they think you should have it for someone else, this imaginary person they're trying to defend. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they can be used, but I think and that's another thing that I caution authors with putting them in your books, because if you do that, you are going to start acting like it's our responsibility to figure out what everybody can and can't handle before we release a book, and that's just impossible. You know, it's impossible.
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta say, I started writing and publishing fiction in the 1980s, before trigger warning was a thing that was being discussed. What was being discussed was lack of propriety and going too far, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I basically walked in going, my work is made out of triggers. You know, I'm just walking in and I'm pulling every trigger that that is apropos to the subject. You know, it's like, I'm going to talk about this shit and I'm not going to pull any punches. And if you don't want to have that happen, you have a universe of other books that you can read. But I'm going to be fucking doing it. And that's just
this goes back to like knowing what you're getting into. If you're going to read a splatterpunk book, I mean, don't come in sensitive.
But this is the thing. Splatterpunk didn't exist, you know. But what did exist was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Night of the Living Dead and various other things that that had basically opened the Pandora's box to accuracy. When I was in 8th grade, when I came back from Argentina, I had to flee Argentina in 1970 when the military overthrew the government and there were tanks in the streets and I'm running down the street. I saw a lot of people die when I was a kid. I saw a lot of shit. Came back to the States and there's Night of the Living Dead. It's like some kid in junior high is like, you got to see this movie, man. They actually eat a person. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go see this person be eaten. And well, okay, and just on the side of this, I had my first acid flashback in the middle of Night of the Living Dead when I was 14 years old. And at that point, it was sort of like a documentary, like a psychedelic documentary, and it really imprinted very directly on my central nervous system, and I liked it. I was like, okay, because what it basically, you know, I lived in a world where the truth was harsh, and I wanted to talk about that shit. I wanted people to understand that this is how it is. When I was a little kid, there would be shows like Gunsmoke on TV. That was the Western. And there would be a shootout, and it'd be pa-pow, 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 and somebody get maybe a little flower of blood on their shirt, and they would lay there, and then they would make a little speech, and then they go, yeah, right? And I'm like, that's not how it fucking is, man. Violence is intense, and it's real. Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to tell that truth. That felt to me like the mission statement, is that I am not going to water this down. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't what it is. And I felt the same way about sex, and I felt the same way about drugs, and I felt the same way about politics and cultural and social situations. It's like, I'm going to tell the fucking truth, and I'm going to use metaphors in order to do it, because that's what I think the world needs. You can get your bullshit anywhere else, and you can get people to pander and condescend and do all the other things. I'm just going to fucking talk straight with you, and that's it. That's fucking it. You know. So I have no problem warning people that I'm going to be frank. And to me, it isn't about the gore in the sense of like, how fucked up can I get? Although when it's time to get fucked up, I'm totally happy to go there. It's just, like I said, I'm not going to be part of the bullshitting of America. I'm not going to be part of the bullshitting of the world. I'm going to fucking tell you how it is, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a lot of content creators, especially like in the book talk sphere. I feel like there is a lot of because I don't do this for money, I just do this for fun. I do not have any types of problems like arguing with people in the comments. Like as soon as someone says something that I just, oh my gosh, one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is when I review a book and then immediately one of the comments is like, oh, this is the author's wet dream, or the author really wants to do this, or something like that.
Right.
That drives me crazy. And so
it's like, how do they know? You know?
How did you guys know?
Yeah, are they in my head? No, it's like...
Did you read my diary? Did you peek on me on a Tuesday, on a typical Tuesday night? But like, that's one of the things I remember the first time I went to AuthorCon, and my TikTok was doing moderately okay. I got advice from another like book talk reviewer, and they were like, you should really start being like nicer in the comments and like really start to like cultivate a community and just be nicer. No, this is my stuff. I'm doing this because I like to. If you say some dumb shit, guess what? You're getting dumb shit in return. I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to sit here and coddle you. We're talking about extreme horror and splatterpunk. I'm not going to hold your hand through this.
Yeah, dude, you're a renegade, and that's awesome. And I think like in the same way that we are, you are that in that sphere. And like the cool thing is like we get to be like that on the page, you know, but in public we have a certain conduct that we have to follow, you know. But
that's why I'm here.
Exactly. You're the G though, you know, like it's like, but and we appreciate people like you who, you know, help us out and kind of, you know, straighten these people out that are just essentially slandering a lot of us. Really is what it is. You know, it's just slander. And it's fine. Like I have no problem with somebody saying like that book sucked, I hated that book. But like you said, when you take it to that next level of like, this is what he wants to do. You know what I mean? He's a fucked up person. Like somehow they know you. You know what I mean? And
like the comments are like, the author should be on a watch list. Has the author? Has anyone gone through the author's computer? Did they look at CP? They probably look at like. Get out of here. That stuff makes me so angry. And then I just go ham in the comments.
And that's the great thing about being in business for yourself. You know what I mean? Like you don't have the puppet strings attached to you because there's no monetary bullshit, you know? So you don't have to deal with it.
I would also like to point out just on the insanity of saying that the work, if you write about murder, that you're a murderer. You know, that if you think about these things, then you must be doing these things. An awful lot of people who actually wind up doing these things have very, very cultivated personas. You know, John Wayne Gacy was a clown going to amuse people in hospitals and ran a KFC. So I guess what I get from learning about John Wayne Gacy is he must have really liked chicken. And, you know, it's like I don't think you're getting the right conclusions from this, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
If we were doing this shit, would we be fucking dumb?
I'm really squeamish. Like in real life, like I can't. Like if I get shots, I have to look away.
He cries.
If someone gets like a bloody nose, I get kind of like queasy. I'm very squeamish, but when it's fake and when we're just making shit up, it's really funny to me. Like I think it's really funny, and that's why like I always do gross out contests and like shit like that because I get a real kick out of it. But in life, I can't handle anything real at all. You
know, Ed Lee is like the same way.
Really? Yes. Yeah. Watch Ed Lee read the backs of his own books. He looks disgusted. He looks like he's gonna puke. Like you wrote that, dude. And honestly, man, we're all in this community together. The sweetest, kindest people I know write the most horrible shit.
Exactly. And that's what I usually talk about in the comments is they're like, oh, I bet this guy is deranged and a psychopath and disgusting. And I'm always like, actually, these are some of the nicest people I've ever met, are the people that write the most fucked up shit I've ever read in my life. Like stuff that gives me nightmares. These are the nicest people. Like I've never felt a sense of community like this ever. And like not to go off topic too much, but I really felt it when my cat had to get an emergency surgery. And I posted a GoFundMe because like I think the surgery was like $5,000, and I found out on a Friday that it needed to happen that Monday.
Oof.
And the community, the extreme horror splatterpunk, the horror community came together and raised up that money for me. Wow. And I was like, are you kidding me? And that really, I was blown away by that, because there's just, and that's another reason why I go ham in the comments the way that I do and stick up for the community the way that I do, because I know that a lot of these people don't know me personally, but I know that if I fall down and I need help, the community is there. And I've seen so many other people reach out to the community, and we're just, even though we don't know each other too much, we have common ground, and it's just so nice to have that. It's really, it's crazy. I've never experienced community like this.
It's beautiful.
It really is.
Okay, so one other thing I want to say about this is I spent a lot of time around stand-up comedians at various points in my life, and I spent a lot of time in the horror community. Horror writers often work out their darkest shit in their work and then are free to be nice, friendly, happy people. Comedians work out a bunch of their best shit on stage and then go home as broken, miserable, unhappy people. I've seen it so much. You know, it's like what horror does is horror is the genre that is uniquely, it's made to address the damage. You know, it's made to look at the dark stuff. So you look at it squarely and you address it, and that allows you to work shit out. A lot of people can't face that stuff, don't want to face that stuff, and that's why they waggle their finger at you and clutch their pearls, because it's like, how dare you even be able to think about that? Well, because maybe I know that being a chicken shit about it isn't going to help. You know, that at a certain point you got to kind of face your demons. Either that, or you just deny that you have any, and then you become the kind of hypocritical person that winds up trying to torment other people just because they were able to face their shit.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of authors, and I usually ask them, especially with their more like messed up works, I always ask them their inspiration behind it, and it's always because they've been going through something dark and they just needed an outlet. Not necessarily that X, Y, and Z happened to them, but just because they wanted to get out a certain type of like feeling or anger or frustration, and so they just bump it up to the extreme, get everything out. And it reminds me of The Stork. I remember reading that and asking you about that, and you were like, I was writing it during this time and I didn't want to publish it until after everything was clear. I thought that was so fascinating. That book sticks with me so much. I recommend it a lot.
That was I was becoming a father, and my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I made the mistake of reading books about it. And all the books did was say, here's a list of everything that could go wrong. And so what my brain does is all of those things are going to go wrong.
Right.
And so I had to just stop reading that shit, and then this idea popped into my head, which is Stork, and I was like, well, be kind of fucked up to write that now until my baby's born without all this list of shit. Yeah. And so I waited, but like the second she was born, I was in the hospital next to this like plastic crib I remember the blankets had dinosaurs on, and I was just sitting next to my baby, every 5 minutes looking at her stomach to see if she was breathing, because I'm traumatized by what to expect when you're expecting. And then I fucking wrote Stork right there next to her. Just was like, okay, it's safe now. And that's where I wrote it. Was in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what's crazy too is sometimes, like when Skipp was talking about like how we kind of get our shit out in writing, sometimes you might get some shit out and not realize it till years later. Sometimes somebody else may fucking tell you about it. I've had that happen to me, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, because
you feel comfortable
the answer to the
story?
question.
No.
Okay.
I can't.
Valid.
Sorry, but
valid.
Yeah.
There are times where, like,
I'd like to. Sorry.
If you ask me why did you write that book, my inspiration might be, I don't know. I like this movie, and I thought, what if I did this with it? And it's just fun. And then you read it 2 years later, and all your baggage is in that motherfucker. You know?
It's like a little treasure hunt, little breadcrumbs, where you're like, you go back and you're like, oh.
And they're breadcrumbs from your unconscious.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, something that you were saying a while ago about why certain work resonates deeper than other work, and a lot of it is like just the sheer amount of work that was put into it and attention to detail and so forth. But another thing I've been noticing more and more, to the point where I'm just going to say, I think this is how it is the work that really affects me. I can feel the unconscious, the collective unconscious and the subconscious mind. I can taste the depth of the well. You know, there are certain people who go deep, and they're sending off a frequency that you can fucking feel. You know, it's like when people ask, why does David Lynch's work work the way it does? Because he was coming from this deep unconscious place. He was fishing for ideas and pulling them up and going, look at what I got. Let's see how that goes. And you can feel that. Whereas some people feel the need to explain everything to death, until there's no mystery and no wonder. This is another thing that you were talking about earlier. It's just like the work that leaves room, the work that has echoes, you know, that has deep echoes, really, really stands out, because it doesn't need to explain everything, because it knows it can't explain everything, because everything can't be explained. But what it does is it accurately clocks the experience of the thing. And then you're like, whoa, I'm in the presence of the mystery now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's huge.
I feel like you guys do such a good job of the balance of like the attention to detail, but leaving enough room for the reader to have imagination. I feel like that's so difficult to balance, because I feel like with a lot of books that I read, it's either so vague that I'm like, okay, this is very abstract. This is very, I'm filling in the pieces. I'm kind of understanding. I don't mind books like that, and I don't mind the other side of the coin where it's like, okay, very cut point, all the detail, all you need to know, and then it's done. But I feel like you guys do such a good job of balancing, like, okay, we're going to give you, the characters are so well developed, but there's still some room for you to like fill in the blanks and still think about those characters and what they're doing afterwards, where it's just so nice. You guys leave just enough room for imagination without me being like, okay, I need more. That didn't answer any of my questions. You know what I mean? There's no frustration there, but there's still that wonder. Love it.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of our job, is to write with the reader in mind. You know, it's a writing experience for you. And if I give you everything, you know, like you said, sometimes it can be enjoyable, but I like the idea of, you know, like you said, Skipp, echoes. Like when you're done reading it or watching something, you can't stop fucking thinking about it. And then you talk to somebody else about it, and you're bouncing theories off each other, and that's the shit right there. You know, and if we can create that for readers, and they want, like you said, you love it so much you made a channel and you just had to talk about it. That's what we're trying to do. You know, if you read it and you're like, okay, and now I'm done reading that, and then you just pick up the next one, you know.
No, there's been works of your guys's where I love it so much that I feel like I need to talk to someone on a personal level. And so I'll force some of my friends. I'm like, hey, I bought you a copy of this book. You're going to read it, and then we're going to discuss it. I need to bounce ideas about what the fuck is going on in this book because I feel like I'm going crazy. I need someone to talk to.
I love that. Yeah. 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 I mean, that's why we love art. That's why we love this, you know, because it answers a very deep call to want to know, to explore, and you know, like figure out why this shit matters. You know, what does it mean? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? Yeah, you know, I wouldn't have devoted my entire life to this if it wasn't the thing that I care about the most.
Right, right. And I feel like you guys also do a very good job of writing books that can be reread. Like I value that so much in a book because I love rereading books because I feel like especially with your guys' writing and the way that you guys write and the attention to detail and the hours and the detail that you guys put into your works. There's been multiple times where I'll read one of your guys' works and then I'll give myself like 3 months and I'll go back and I'll reread it and take more notes because, like I said, I can just tell the detail that goes into it, the hours that are poured into it. Love that because I feel like I find something new every single time I read it.
And that means a lot considering how much out there is to read. For you to read it again, you know, that's saying a lot.
You know, and it happens a lot with movies and people. You know, it's like a movie gets you, and then you go back. Oh, this is my comfort watch. You know, and you'll do that thing. But it is really really nice when readers do that and just go in and soak in it some more. And again, I mean, the first time is hopefully full of surprises, right? You don't know what's going to happen. The second time, you can kind of go back and go like, I see that. All these connective tissues were laid out. There was shit that I didn't see coming, and here it is in the first chapter.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what you guys do. That's what you guys do in your writing, especially with Benjamin. I think I read Benjamin 3 times.
Oh wow,
that's a big one too. Wow.
That's
because the
first
was to just like, you know, get used to everything and take notes and everything. And then after I took notes, especially when I made the chart that I made connecting all the characters and where the build went, I went through and I made notes on the chart. And then the last time was to kind of just close it off in my mind to make sure I went through everything because that book was just, it was so good. But speaking of like re-consuming media, Skipp, you brought up like comfort films. What are your guys's? I know it's off topic, but I'm a huge fan of comfort films. What are some forms of media or films that you find yourself like rewatching over and over and over and over? I know it's off topic, but
well, I mean, a lot of mine are not horror. They are other things, but I mean, like, if I'm really angry, if I'm in a really pissed off mood, nothing cheers me up like Lamberto Bava's Demons. For some reason, that cheers me the fuck up when I'm really pissed off, and it just cracks me up. It's sort of the same way, like whenever I hear Cyndi Lauper sing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," I start crying. It's like, I know you do. But I mean, there's so many movies over the years. I have a Letterboxd account set up, and I listed my 1,886 favorite movies. There's a lot of them, and I love them.
There's over 1,000.
Well, and I mean that's the 1,886 movies that I really like. I left off a whole bunch of movies that I don't give a shit about. So yeah, I mean it's like And with all of those, I've still watched numerous movies like a dozen times, 20 times, 30 times. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Dawn of the Dead, original Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, dude.
But I can't tell you how many times I've watched Harold and Maude. You ever see Harold and Maude?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of my favorite movies. They're just, I find myself, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll wind up showing people films that I think they'll want to have in their life. Like Shane came to my house once several years ago, and we just did like these 6-movie-a-day marathon. Talk about smoking cigarettes.
And we were smoking cigarettes in his bedroom, and so we're just sitting on a bed, just chain smoking. I couldn't even see him by the end of it.
But you still see the movies, and that was the important thing.
That's the important part.
Yeah, for me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when we're talking horror, that is my everything. It's really what started all of this. As far as wanting to do it, when I was a kid, it was Tales from the Crypt. I watched that constantly, anytime, and it was the best because my parents didn't know what was in that. So they're like, "Oh, Shane loves his little ghost stories." And I'm just sitting there like, but outside of horror, I think a perfect movie is Fargo.
Okay.
That movie's fucking perfect. I've read the screenplay like 5 times. I study that movie. I think it's perfect.
Yep.
But my biggest comfort is rewatching old seasons of MasterChef. And I know that's weird.
Yes.
Dude, I can do that every day. And it's because, for one thing, I love cooking, and there's something about watching people cook. And there's something about Gordon Ramsay. I really want him to be my dad. But when I watch a show like that, my brain shuts off, and I'm not picking it apart, and I'm not guessing and trying to figure out what's going to happen, or like, oh, I know how they did this, and all that behind the curtain shit you get when you write this stuff. It doesn't matter in a cooking show. And I just find a lot of comfort in MasterChef for some reason. I'll watch that shit at the gym. Like, I watch it constantly.
Do you watch, I went through a phase where I was watching Chopped a lot.
I haven't hit Chopped yet.
Oh, you're going to really like that. Because me and Shane have talked about this, and we've watched at retreats and shit. Sometimes we'll watch it. And because we have like a stupid amount of like weird things in common, and the Gordon Ramsay thing, we both like that. But like, I would say, like, for my most watched movie list, like the ones that I've watched the most tended to be earlier in my life, like my childhood. But like, I'm not lying when I say I've watched like Dumb and Dumber maybe like 100 times or something.
Oh yeah.
And then Back to the Future. I would say I've probably watched that over 50 times.
Yeah.
Angels in the Outfield, strangely enough. Watched that a ton when I was a kid, and then I rewatched it with my wife recently, and I was like almost in tears the whole fucking movie, dude. It was tough.
Oh, dude.
It was tough. I have a tough one. But and if we're talking about horror though, I think a perfect movie is like Terminator, like the original Terminator.
Oh, I just rewatched that 2 weeks ago.
It's everything.
It's a slasher movie.
Yeah, it's a slasher movie. It's a sci-fi movie. It's a romance. It's action. It has a couple comedic elements, even but it's actually like quite terrifying, really.
Yeah.
Every time anything happens with AI and cutting edge science, I'm like, didn't you motherfuckers watch the Terminator?
Right, they didn't. That's the problem, dude.
They didn't. Yeah.
But I
Terminator Genesis or some shit.
And more recently though, Shane, like I say like many of the Coen brothers movies, for some reason I find a great replayability in them, and like in fact we talked about the Coen brothers a lot, like before we wrote Benjamin, like that was kind of one of the things, like when the guy goes, because like dumb shit always happens in the Coen brothers movie that just leads to like all this crazy shit. And so in Benjamin, do you know the scene, Eve, where the dude's the grocery store clerk, he's going and he goes to the egg cooler to get his wife eggs for the night, and he opens it and he hears people talking in the back. And I'm like, that's like a Coen brothers movie thing, like some stupid shit happens. So it just goes, it spirals into this whole other thing. So yeah, those are great. And
I think that was exactly our idea, was an extreme horror Coen brothers movie.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there are no filmmakers more impeccable in their detail than the Coen brothers. I mean, they really, really, really layer their shit in fascinating ways, and they're coming very much from the unconscious. They don't even know what they're going to be writing about. They just sit down and go and play with it. I think, oh shit, I could talk about movies all day.
I'll say for horror too, like any giallo movie, I can watch just like old weird giallo movies, and like that's a very comforting thing to me. It's just like the black gloves and the killer, you know what I mean? I love those, and I love all the Death Wish movies with Charles Bronson. Like those are very, especially Death Wish 5. I feel that one doesn't get enough love, and I just rewatch the shit out of that one.
Yeah. 100%. I feel like I find myself turning on one of my like comfort movies that like helped me through a breakup, actually, Inglourious Bastards.
That's a good one.
I love that movie so much. I don't know what it is about it, but I could watch it all day long on repeat. And
it might be because it's great.
Yeah, maybe. I love that movie so much.
So that's your favorite Tarantino movie?
I don't know if that would be my favorite. I like Reservoir Dogs a lot.
That's a good pick, yeah. But I saw that when I was very young, like the ear cutting scene. I just happened to see it, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is ill."
Tarantino, another
dancing shit, you know,
the layers of detail. When you watch a movie by Tarantino or the Coen brothers, you are watching somebody who is in love with movies, making movies.
Yeah.
You can feel the passion that they have for what they're doing, like every speck of it. There's no character in a movie by either one of those people that's just a throwaway character. You know,
yeah.
It's somebody very specifically there for a specific reason, and even if they're only there for a second, even if you only see their face, it's going to be the right face.
Shane, remember when we were writing Benjamin, we had this rule because we were like, oh, like Pulp Fiction, just the dialogue's incredible in it, and it's just like we want the whole book to fucking read like that, you know what I mean, and to move like that, and to not fucking like linger. And but there's one part in Pulp Fiction that we brought up. And it's where he's like sweet talking her in the bedroom and talking about blueberry pancakes, and we were like, man, fuck that part though, and like we're like, no blueberry pancakes in the book, and we just kept like that was our code word for meandering text. Like,
I gotta say, I love Maria Medeiros talking about her little tummy. I got no problem with that scene at all. I love that shit.
We did blueberry pancakes and the bum baby. Y'all don't get to know about the bum baby. That's the secret.
Oh. And I just have to say, I love movies so much I make them now. So when you ask about the author turning back into an author note, it's because I retired from writing books several years ago, just because I'm 68 fucking years old, and I guess I was 65 at the time. I'm like, I haven't made a feature film yet, and I refuse to fucking die without making at least 3 feature films that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
So that's why I set this stuff aside. But then Aaron's like, okay, so you're doing this is Splatterpunk thing. You should really have a This is Splatterpunk book to go with it, because it would be dumb not to. And I'm like, yeah, you're totally right. I just don't want to write one. But you know what I wound up doing? I put together This is Splatterpunk, the John Skipp primer, which has a big essay explaining in great detail what I think is going on, and then 15 of my most representative Splatterpunk stories, so that I can get a sense of again what I think it is, and how I think it works, and how I do it. And you know what? I really hope you read that book. That's a book I really would love for you to read, just so you know what.
Good.
Oh, you would love that.
Great.
I'm sure
I will read it. I will devour it.
And you know,
No,
you know what's
amazing.
awesome too in that book is he sets up the stories with like real, like he was telling us on a call maybe a couple months ago, right? I remember
Yeah.
you told us a story when you were like painting a house. You were on a paint job, right? And then
Okay, so yeah, I had just moved to New York City. It was 1981, and my first job was painting the photography studio of this guy named Hank Londoner, who specialized in photographing naked women for Penthouse magazine. And he lived like 2 blocks away from me in Midtown Manhattan. And his girlfriend was a model who had come from the same town that I was just leaving, York, Pennsylvania. And that's how I wound up painting his studio. So one morning I go over to paint, and he's like, I'm photographing today. I don't need you. He threw me $20 and said, see you tomorrow. So I went to the corner pizza place to have my breakfast pizza, and heard on the radio that 18 cab drivers had been murdered in their cabs so far this summer, robbed and murdered in their cabs. And I immediately was like, fuck. And I ran to the store. I got a 6-pack of bud and a pack of cigarettes. And I went upstairs and I wrote this story called The Long Ride, which is the first story in the book about murdered cab drivers. And that was the first professional sale that I ever did. So I basically tell the story of how that came to happen and how I wound up walking into the offices of Twilight Zone magazine and going, I wrote this story, you should read it. And they bought it. So yeah, I talk about how this shit happened.
Yeah, man. For anybody who reads Aron and Chris Triana and Wrath and Dan Volpe or me or any of these people, if you haven't read John Skipp, you need to unfuck that shit like right away. Truly,
Yeah.
He's a huge inspiration to all of us, and as one of my best friends on earth, he's really kept me grounded and has been there when I needed him always, and reminded me. You get real caught up in the bullshit of all this sometimes, and just reminds me of like why we love it and like why we do it in the first place. He's just embodies that for me, and so whenever I'm feeling down, I just have one conversation with Skipp and I'm all better. He is important. I think you got to read this guy and watch his fucking movies too. Trust me.
Yeah.
yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that too and say absolutely, you know, like Skipp paved the way, and you have to go, you know, you have to check out the lineage, especially now with like I see a lot of like older works resurfacing on TikTok. Let's get some Skipp on there. The primer, dude. 100%. Let's get the primer on there, right?
Yeah. Seriously, it's a fucking education, but it's the shit. It's just the shit.
So, Skipp, you said you were in retirement and then you came out of retirement. Are you going to continue writing, or is this just it?
Well, I got to tell you, I have a TV series in development with some amazing people in Hollywood. I can't drop their names because they're not supposed to yet, but it's based on one of my older books from like 20 years ago called Conscience. That was the thing that set it off. Anyway, it's about a serial killer not a serial. Let me try that again. So Conscience is a book about a professional hitman who has hired to kill a new age guru in Los Angeles on the night of the cosmic convergence when all of the planets align. And this is supposed to mean that peace and love are going to ensue and nothing bad is ever going to happen ever again. And Charlie's sort of like, that's never going to happen because there will always be people like me. But then a funny thing happens on the way to the massacre, and he winds up confronted by his own conscience, and this changes things. And is it the cosmic convergence, or is he just insane? Now, that show was being developed in Hollywood when The Ugly Truth came up. And all of a sudden I'm writing Martha. And Martha, the whole way that I'm writing her is screaming at me, to this fucking conscience show, I need to be a character.
Mm-hmm.
And she was right. And so at the end of that, I sent the story to my production partners, and they're all like, oh, this girl's the shit. She's got to be in the show. So we're developing this, but then I'm like, Hollywood, you don't know if things are going to happen. Great things go to Hollywood to die on a second by second basis.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is I love this story with Martha and Charlie and the world that is changing so much that I'm going to write that novel. So I'm officially retirement and I'm going to write that novel.
And Skipp and I have something up our sleeve too.
That there is another book that we need to write as well. Yes. But mostly I need to make some fucking movies. I made a feature last year. Called The Great Divide. It's a black comedy, sort of a class warfare comedy. It's actually screening on Sunday here in Portland at the Clinton Street Theater. I'm very excited about that. We'll probably get it streaming in about a year, but I want it to play in as many theaters as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not horror. So this next movie is going to be like, it's going to have like horror juice all over it. And it's just going to be really, really super. Yeah, it's going to be basting in its own horror juice. While it squirts out in every direction. So, and you guys saying nice things about me is really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like with Skipp, we collaborated on scripts together. And the reason I came back to books is, and I'll have some other friends like Lucas Mangum and Adam Caesar that will be very mad at me for saying that this was Aron, because they were screaming at me to come back to books for years. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm writing movies. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I'm so glad you came back to books. So glad. Oh my goodness.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Continue though. Sorry.
But, no, it's okay. I wrote books because I wanted to make movies and I didn't know that they cost money to do, or that I didn't know how to do that. And so I was like, all right, so if I write a book, then I'm writing a movie for free and I'm making you imagine it.
Yes.
And that's why any of that happened at all. And then because of Skipp, the reason I got into screenwriting, I wrote a book called Muerte con Carne, which is just my Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is going to be a comic book here real soon, by the way.
That's going to be sick.
Yes.
It looks awesome.
So
I've seen some of it. Really cool.
Skipp wrote a review for it in Fangoria way back in the day and mentioned in that review that this, in the right hands, this would be a good movie. And then he met a filmmaker named Gigi Saul Guerrero, who was with Lucha Gore Productions. So mine is about like a homicidal luchador, and she's got this production company called Lucha Gore. And he was just like, y'all should meet. And she read that book and immediately wanted to make it into a short film. And that's what started this whole journey towards screenwriting at all. Now, that journey took me to realizing I love screenwriting, but it's not the same as books, even a little, because with books, I write something, that is now the product, what I wrote. You're going to read that with no filter.
Right.
In movies, I write basically a blueprint for all these other professionals to do their thing with it through their own vision and their filters. And a lot of times what comes out is not necessarily what you envisioned. That's okay. That's the game. But if I'm being honest, I was chasing the money a little bit. Back when I was writing books, you made enough to buy groceries a couple times, maybe if you're lucky, for me anyway. And then the writer's strike happened. And it was in KillerCon in Austin where I met Aron. And I was, kind of telling him, I like you. I like your work. You should really think about screenwriting. There's pretty good money there. And he listened and then told me like, yeah, but things are different now. And a lot of what's different, Enid, is what you do. You know, there's a lot easier way to get the word out to people and this brand new audience, which is why it's so important to go back and read the people who paved the way, because it's just this brand new audience that doesn't know anything about all of that great work out there. And what brought me back to books was just, I get to do what I want the way I want with no filter at all. And I found my passion again because I was starting to lose it a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of like passion and stuff like that, a question that I have for all three of you is what do you guys do when you kind of find yourself losing motivation or losing that passion? Do you guys push through it, or do you guys try to find something that inspires you? Because I'm sure you guys have all experienced like writer's block at some point or another. No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Skipp.
You guys just keep writing?
I actually have a list in my phone of ideas that it's probably close to like 100 ideas now. My ideas are just competing with each other for like my time basically and like what I can do next, you know? And I'm fortunate for that. And I think like part of the reason why I haven't had any of that writer's block too is because like doing this for a living, like, you know, I ship orders, I run my store, I work on producing audiobooks and review them, like I do the marketing online. So like there's all these different things that I really like. I'm not like suffocated by like, oh, I need to wake up and write for 8 hours today. No, I could go weeks without writing anything, and then I'm just fucking, you know. But I'm doing all different administrative stuff and it could be editing, whatever it might be. But I'm not writing new material. But it just fucking gets me hungry to get to when I'm gonna get back into writing. You know what I mean? And like I'm marinating the stories in my head while I'm doing that.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, you're incubating it, man.
Right,
yeah.
While you're doing all the other shit, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead, Skipp. What is it like for you?
Oh, man, I the closest thing I ever come to a writer's block is when I haven't done enough research. And then it's just like, okay, I can't write this scene because I don't know enough about this. Yep. And so then I go and learn some things about it, and it's like, oh, now I can fucking write it.
Yes.
I have more ideas than I'll ever be able to express. I will die with mountains of unexpressed ideas. And the thing is, I only work on things I actually care about. You know, I'm not going to write shit that I don't give a shit about. And so there's no shortage of passion. I do not, that never happens. And the other thing is, I'm very lucky in that I do make movies and I write music and play music and do various things. So a certain amount of creative crop rotation can happen where like, okay, this isn't happening, but that is. So I'll go do that. And by the time I'm done doing that, the next thing is ready. I really look at it like I have a stove with a 1,000 burners on it. And there's something on every single stovetop. But then there's one burner in the front that is the one that you actually cook on. So it's like everything else is simmering and, you know, gaining its flavor and turning into itself over the course of however long it needs to. But then you pull up the one you're going to actually serve. And, you know, you're making a dish and you're going to serve it to people. And it has to be cooked. It has to be cooked all the way through. Otherwise, you're serving people half-baked shit, and it's going to suck, and nobody's going to want to come back to your stupid restaurant.
Right.
So, then I cook that one, I serve it, and then I pull the next one up. And I'm never going to be done. I'm short order, creative cook from hell, and that's just how it goes.
So for me, I have a day job, and I have 2 young children. And so writing becomes a luxury for me because I'm so busy all the time and there's always so much other shit I got to do that when I have a free moment, it's like I have to use it for writing. And then so it's never a shortage of ideas or a shortage of inspiration or even just motivation to do it because I'm like, it's such a joy when I get to. However, there are times, and I wouldn't call it writer's block. I feel like writer's block is more of like I'm out of ideas. but it's more of a, sometimes life fucks you up a little bit, and I will find it hard to do anything, writing or not. I'll get a text message and I'll fucking spin out about it, you know. And so it's like when that shit happens, I lean on my friends. I lean on these guys. I lean on Wrath and Lucas, are two of my best friends, and just the community in general. Nothing is more healing for me than a convention. Go to a convention, be surrounded by the craft and my favorite people, and it's what we talk about. My betters are fucking recharged. I'm drenched in horror juices.
Yes.
Get back to my computer, and nothing will stop me from writing that shit then. And so when I'm feeling like that, I lean on my community.
And,
yeah.
And if I could just add one thing to that, because I think this is important, it's the ability to pivot, right? Some people pivot for the wrong reasons, and you know, because they don't want to finish something or they become turned off by an idea.
Right.
But to me, I pivot when I know I don't have the proper like tools yet for the story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we talked about incubating it, right? And that's why, like, what Playground, for example, like, I could have just cranked out a sequel to that. You know what I mean? I could have capitalized on the fucking millions and millions of views of the book and just scumbagged it. But I can't fucking do that because, like, I'd be sick. You know what I mean? It'd make me sick to put out something that I'm not obsessed with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
I love that.
Yeah, you have to. So I waited years to do that, and I knew the story was there, but all the pieces weren't quite in place for it yet. So you have to wait. But I think that ability to pivot is what sets apart writers like the three of us, I would say, who really aren't stunted by what is it called? Writer's block. And the people that do, you know, because like you can pivot and, like you said, Skip, finish something else that is ready, right? And then you're just assembling that, and that one's ready, even though you've already started this one. But then you come back to it, you know. So.
Yeah, like sometimes it's years, dude. Like Benjamin is full of old ideas that weren't ready, and then now we put him in Benjamin. Like this is what it was waiting for.
Yeah.
The stripper idea. My original idea for the strippers was, what if there was a really bitter day crew of strippers who were kicked off the night crew because they aged out or whatever, and they robbed that strip club at night as revenge for all of that. That was the original idea, and it became what Benjamin is. And then there was the what if, because I live in Texas, a lot of day laborers here. So if you go to, like, you know, it's just true. If you go to Home Depot in the morning, there's going to be a lot of Mexican day laborers looking for work. And I always thought, what if a serial killer pulled up and hired one of them for the day? It's like, you're going to help me kill for today. And never did anything with that. I wasn't ready. And then we ended up going into Benjamin. So sometimes you have an idea, and if you follow your gut, you'll know when the time is right. But you got to learn how to build that gut instinct too.
Yeah. I had a recent moment that I want to just mention briefly here that was kind of, Shane, what you're talking about in a way. Like, I had two ideas, completely like independent ideas, and then I had this one other idea that I had even wrote a little bit for, and really what I ended, and I waited, I told myself I wasn't going to write this book until I had written 20 books. Now the book that I was going to write is not even that book anymore. It's an element from that book mixed with these two other elements, and I feel like a fucking mad scientist, and I look at it and I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is, I
mix some chemicals and shit. Yeah.
But that's totally how it is. I mean, that
totally is. Yeah.
It's just like, there's a guy named Charles Fort who spent his life researching odd phenomena, unusual stuff. And he did this like last century. But he had a phrase that was, it's steam engines come steam engine time, which is to say all of the pieces that would make a steam engine were laying around. And then somebody went, if we put these together, it will go really fast and move things. And yeah, so I think of that all the time, man. It's like the story Steam Engine, because it was steam engine time. All the pieces that were laying around.
That is awesome. Yeah, and there's no feeling of excitement either than when it like all comes together and you're just like oh, it's fucking going down now. You know? Like,
Yeah.
Dude, there's times like in our collaborations where we couldn't fucking like talk fast enough.
Yeah.
Like we'd be like talking over each other and like you'd be talking and I'd go, oh, so like something would hit me and you'd be like, what is it? And it's just like it's the best feeling. That's why we go deep into the night, because we don't want to fucking stop. It's like like a drug, man.
Yeah, because I know that especially when it comes to like feeding off other people's ideas and bouncing off of like conversations like that, once you start, it's hard to stop. Like there's no good stopping point, especially when the creativity juices are squirting everywhere. It's so hard to get them to stop. There's so many conversations, even though I just dabble in writing, I haven't done anything big with it. I write with a few friends and we just, it's into the night where we're just like bouncing off ideas. And next thing you know, the sun's coming up, the birds are chirping, and you've lost all track of time.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun to do. Now, another thing that happens with me, because I do a lot of work by myself writing, I will have so many ideas piling up that what I'll do is I'll get a friend who is like temporarily unemployed or something. I'll go, $10 an hour to sit here with me and write down every single thing that I think of on one of these. Like, I have walls covered with notes of like.
Oh, dude, Skipp's got postcards everywhere.
I love that.
Index cards all over the place. I love it.
It's crazy that there will be times where I'll be like, okay, you come over and just, every card is like a beat. It's like a specific thing that happens. Sometimes it's a line of dialogue. And they'll come over, and an hour and a half later, I'll have 250 notes on my wall. It's just like, because it's been building up, and I can't write fast enough for it to come out. So I have to really do that. And then I can look at the whole thing and see it, stand back from it. And because they're on cards, it's a modular system, you can move them around and go, okay, this wall up here, it's numbered 10 through 90. 10, 20, 30, 40. That's basically the amount of minutes in a movie. And then I'll just go, okay, this scene, I think it happens at 35 minutes. No, actually it happens at 80. And I just pick it up and I move it over there. Right. And that's a working methodology for me. I've been doing that shit for years. Because you just get so many ideas. Yeah. And then when you're playing with other people, God help us.
Yeah, that's the best, man. When it's working, there's nothing better than that shit.
Yep. That's funny when you mention the dialogue too, because sometimes that happens to me. I'll get a fucking line, and I'm like, this isn't even a story. This is nothing. This is just a line. It's just somebody saying something, and then it just blossoms into this whole other fucking thing. It's just a simple
because
line.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. It's like, okay, who are they talking to? Why did they say that?
Right.
What else? And then what happens? And then what happens? And that's the whole art of that's where improv comes from. I think really when we're writing, we're improvising. We're like improv comedies. We're improv nightmare comedians, and the riffs are just coming and coming and coming. To me, that's a lot of what writing is. It's just like getting into fucking flow state and then just letting them tell you what they want to say.
Yeah, and Eve, if take this little piece of advice, like, you're very young still, like you have plenty of time to do this if it's something that you want to do. I mean, I'm a person who, while I was writing my whole life in different ways, I was never like anywhere near committed to it, and like it took me a while to realize, to be like, no, I need to go. It took somebody else to tell me, you need to go all in. You need to try. You know what I mean? And like actually go all in. And so like, don't, if you're just playing around now, you never know where it might go. You really don't.
Yeah, I'm hoping to like That's why I asked you guys about like the motivational piece, is because I don't necessarily run out of ideas like you, Skip. I have a ton of flashcards and like sticky notes of just like ideas or certain pieces of things. And I thought it was so interesting how you were talking about like moving them around, because that's what I do a lot, just to like, it just makes more sense and it's more straight to get it out of my brain, because when it's in there, there's a lot going on. I have too much going on. So I have to like get it out. But the whole piece of like the motivational, just like getting out of my head and not second guessing myself, because I'm a very like blunt, analytical, like borderline perfectionist sometimes. And so I will sit down to start writing and I'll have a ton of ideas, but I'm like, okay, this needs to be perfect as soon as it's on the paper. And I know that's not how it works.
And so that's a hard thing to break through.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we do is getting the fuck out of our own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and trusting your instinct, letting it flow, and then doing that part on like draft 3.
Yeah.
You know, get that shit out of your head and play. Like just let it flow, and then let that part of your brain that wants to be a perfectionist. You need that shit too, but not in the beginning. Like move the motherfucker out the way and let the juices flow.
I consider writing a party. I sit down to party every night with my story, and so it's like, yeah, I want it to be really, really good, but I also want to have fun doing it, and it will thank me for letting it have fun, you know, and yeah, you're allowed to make mistakes. You can fix a mistake, but I do really, really, really like to like. I don't start a story that I don't know the ending of. You know, it's like I was saying, it's like it's really hard to hit the fucking bullseye when you don't even know where the target is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like when I go to somebody's house, I don't just get in my car and start driving and hope I wind up there.
Yeah.
Where the fuck, you know, I'll figure out what roads I'm going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen when I'm going down the road, but I don't, you know, you don't just start driving.
Yeah, I think, dude, that's so important, I think. You know what I mean? Because, like, part of what you were talking about, Eve, where you're like, oh, I see what you guys did, like, along the way to, like, so that when you get here, you're like, oh, shit, that was that. And that was the reason he said that. And that's why knowing where you're going is important, because you set it up along the way. And, you know, that's the problem with pantsing, in my opinion, which is the writing style where people don't, they're just writing and they just go. You know, you could do that, but you're probably going to have a lot more fucking work to do to make it a good story by the end of it than if you just figured out where you were going in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus, like, even if you perfect it in your mind and you're like, okay, it's perfect, I can move on. When you read it again, you're going to change it.
Yeah.
For sure, you're going to change shit. There are things in Benjamin we were sure. We fucking figured it out. This is it. We've done it. We're so good. And then we'd have one conversation and we'd realize we got to change all of that. We have to take out this part that is the reason we're even talking. We just realized we have to cut. And that shit's hard, but like it is a good lesson to be like, just let it flow. Like get out of your way because your instincts will take over and you'll know when it's right. And it's never in draft 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's a character in Benjamin called the Artist, right? And the Artist, so the thing with me and Shane with this was like, okay, the killer's got to be fucking cool in this. You know what I mean? He's got to be like unique, and we came up with this great idea of like, oh, he swaps people's skin, and like, you know what I mean?
So I want you. It is good though. Okay. So if imagine like you go to the strip club. And you have all these like small strippers that were skinned and are now wearing the baggy skin of like the scumbags that came to watch them.
Yeah.
And it's like hanging off. And I was like, what if he swapped and then like the big fat bodies have like the stripper skin like stretched out over them, and so we started calling him the skin swapper.
Yeah. And so we're like, oh, this is so fucking cool. You know what I mean? So we're like, this is cool, right? And we love the idea, but then the question of why? Why is he doing it? And we could never fucking figure out why he did it, you know? And we were like, and then so we were like,
we came up with the most up our own ass reasons. Well, maybe in his childhood, it was like he wanted to live in the skin of other. It was all so stupid. And we knew it. We knew it was stupid. And it was just like, then we realized it was like, well, we're backing him into a corner.
Yeah.
He only does that one thing. And so as we kept building and building, we realized he was an artist and he was making these artistic statements. And then we could do whatever the fuck we wanted.
And we could still use the skin swap once, but not limit him to that and use so much more. But the funny part...
we never did, right? We didn't even use it.
No, it just in one of the recollections, kind of, it's used. But
that's right, yeah.
But
put it in there.
But the funny part was we didn't know what the fuck to call him neither for like most of the book. And then one day I sat down with Shane and I was like, hey, listen, I'm not saying it's this. I'm like, but what if he was something like the artist, you know? And then he's like, I think that's it, you know? And that's kind of how... Sometimes
how many times
like,
has that happened?
Yeah.
Not this, but and then it ends up being that.
Right.
It happens all the fucking time. I mean, how many times in the This Is Splatterpunk script talking about it, it's like, well, let's do this. Wait, but what if it's that? Oh, but what if this happens? Oh, but and then and the next thing you know, it's
dude. If y'all could have been present for when Skipp and I were coming up with the Bizarro one, oh my god. That was a really fucking crazy night.
and that's the only one that's actually an adaptation of a previous work. It's based on Kevin L. Donahue's Bizarro classic novel, Night of the Assholes, which is like Night of the Living Dead, but instead of zombies, it's assholes. And if you try to fight them, you turn into an asshole. So it's a very accurate story. And we just had to come up with this shit.
The only way to kill them is to shoot them in the asshole.
Or like stick something large up their asshole.
Yeah.
We took that concept and we fucking went bananas. And there was so much of we're just trying to make each other laugh. And that's in the script now. Because it was so fucking funny. And that's a lot of how Skipp and I work too. We're just like hanging out and entertaining each other. And then this thing comes out of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then you're just sort of like,
this is so cool. We got for everyone to see. This is Splatterpunk. This movie is wild.
I cannot wait. I'm so pumped. I feel like it's so important for people to. We've already talked about it, but it's so important for people to know the difference between like extreme horror and splatterpunk, especially with all the new book reviewers and book talk people, and I feel like the genre is really like going uphill when it comes to like popularity and people realizing it. I went to my cat sneezed. I went to my Barnes and Noble. Bless you. I went to my Barnes. Oh my goodness. I went to my Barnes and Noble and the horror section has like expanded ×3 with a lot more like newer extreme horror splatterpunk authors, and so it's so nice to see that. But it's also I'm so which we've already experienced it, nervous about the stigma that's going to come with like the authors that write it and the readers that read it and all that stuff. But I'm very happy that it's on the come up. I really hope that people enjoy it as much as we do.
Yeah.
Me too. Hey, you'll keep it under your hat if I send you the screenplay, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'll send you the book and the screenplay, and you can see all the This is Splatterpunkery.
Yeah.
This is Splatterpunkery, yes.
Eve, did you get the hardcover copy of The Ugly Truth too that I sent you? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure you got
Isn't it beautiful? It's so beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I love it so much.
It's so beautiful.
He's a
love
good
it
looking
so
man.
much.
What are you saying?
Yeah, this
Yeah. Wow.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, I love it.
I gotta give you one of these soon too. I just got the hardcovers in.
I cannot wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I'm foaming at the mouth.
I'm about to place my big order soon, so
Hell yeah.
you'll definitely get it early. So.
Yes. Okay, so I have work at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So
We've been talking for 2.5 hours, so it's all good.
But I do want to touch on if you guys want to talk about any upcoming things that you guys are working on or talk about anything like that. I know, Aaron, you're of course coming out with Playground. What else are we working on? I'm so curious that you're willing to share, of course.
Yeah, so I've got a Playground Child of Divorce. So the hardcover for that is probably going to open up around late July, and the wide release will probably be like mid-August. So I'm really excited about that. And next after that, I'm going to be releasing a book that is kind of it's a little bit more on the supernatural side. It's really it's really bleak and dark though. It's called Homewreckers, and I've revealed the cover and some other ones. As I said earlier, Shane helped me with a lot of the ending on that one. And I have a creature feature coming after that. So it's my first, like, this is like a true 100% creature feature. It's about the size, and I'm gonna translate it to screenplay too, because it's like perfect movie size, and it just reads like a movie. And I just finished writing it. It's about a fucking mutant horsefly. So, because I have these horseflies that come and attack me in my yard all the time. Shane,
Dude,
you've seen them.
Terrifying.
Yeah, they're big motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They're like birds.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let me have fun with this. And man, I really honestly, like, it's one of the most fun things I've written. It's just a classic creature feature, you know? But there is heart to it too. You know, there's an emotional aspect under some of the comedic elements and in the gore and all the fun stuff. So
nice. So for me, my book Monsters Don't Cry just came out a couple months ago. The paperback and ebook are available now, so that's there with a foreword from Judith Sonnet, and we also co-wrote a short story as a bonus that takes place in the universe of the main story, which was a blast. It's called Valentine's Day. And then I'm working on my first solo new book since coming back. A lot of the books I've been putting out are reprints from back in the day, but I'm doing one called Scraphead, which originated as my pitch to Legendary Pictures for the new Texas Chainsaw movie, which made it through a few rounds, or so I'm told. Ultimately got rejected, but I loved it so much, I was like, I'm going to turn this into something, and that's what Scraphead is. Yeah. And then I've got the comic book based on Muerte con Carne called Gigante, which is supposed to be out already, so we'll see. This is how these things go, but it is coming. And I am now writing the screenplay for what is going to be the movie based on my book, All You Can Eat. And so look out for that probably next year.
Amazing.
Yep.
And I've already told you everything that I'm doing. I'm doing This Is Splatterpunk and a TV series I can't talk about in a book I'm going to write about it. And I'm writing all the music for the movie as well, which is really...
Yes, he writes all the music. It's crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if anybody's watching this video long form, right, Skipp, the site is for your book is thisissplatterpunk.com.
That is correct.
So if you want, Skipp has the limited hardcovers that are going to come signed, and you're also doing signed paperbacks, right?
Yep.
Amazing.
So if you want to support the film, you know what I mean? That's a good way you could support the film, just by grabbing the book.
Yes, please.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, thanks so much, Eve. We appreciate you.
No,
this was great.
thank you guys. This was so much fun.
This was fun.
I love yapping. You guys know me.
Me too.
Love to talk.
Oh yeah. No, you did a great job.
For hours more, for sure.
Yeah, if I didn't have to be up so early, I would probably stay up all night and just talk. Love it. But yes, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to read everything that you guys write all the time.
Well, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're really helping not just us, but literally like a whole genre. So you're part of the background. So we really appreciate you, and it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. I hope you guys have a great night.
You too.
You too. Take care.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.